Yeah, we had to come in wearing the Warriors hat, huh?
I had to come in with that, and I got this cube that I got from when I went to the Warriors game in 2019. They were giving these out. It was a Klay Thompson puzzle cube.
Oh, that's dope.
Like a
I like a
Rubik's,
little, like the
like a
Rubik's
little,
Cube kind of thing.
yeah. Let me bust it out real quick so I can show you. It's pretty sick. Nice little
Oh,
Rubik's
that's
cube.
dope.
Yeah, the
Have you ever
showcases.
actually done it or no?
Nah, I never actually did it because I didn't want to like mess it up because then I wouldn't be
Uh,
able to put it back. But it was always like one of the main keepsakes that I had when I went to that game. So
that's dope. All right, man. I'm excited to talk some NBA today.
I know, right? This is a first for us for sure.
I know. I
But
was like, it was a cool game last night, entertaining game. Obviously, Clay's first game back. I was like, let's throw this in real quick.
yeah, for sure. No, I agree. I think this is a good time to kind of reflect for everybody that's just a fan of the Bay Area in general, right? Not just a Niners fan. So yeah, I'm excited to talk about that.
Yeah, shout out to some people already tuning in. Mumpreet's in the chat. My boy Adrian in the chat too. He said Wemby got 50 points. That's crazy.
Oh damn, I want to look that highlight up later.
He's been pretty quiet this season too, so it's good for him to break out like that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Mumper, we definitely need hopefully Harsh hops in the comments so we can talk about the Seahawks a little bit.
Oh man, we should have had him on today.
He would have been ducking smoke, bro.
Okay, we're gonna get him next week when we beat him.
He ain't gonna come on. All right, man. Well, let's start with talking about the Warriors-Mavericks game last night. As I said, it was Klay Thompson's first game back in the Bay Area. A lot of obviously it was tough for Warrior fans and the organization to see Klay leave after spending his whole career with the Golden State Warriors, and we know what he's meant to that franchise, right? A four-time champion, one of the greatest shooters of all time. You think about the Game 6 Klay, 37 points in a quarter Klay, 14 three-pointers in a game Klay, which is an all-time NBA record, right? He's had a lot of big moments in the regular season and the postseason. And he obviously left in the offseason to go join with the Dallas Mavericks. It was very controversial, right? He wanted to stay, didn't get the contract offer that he wanted from the Warriors, and so he left. And then last night, his first game back, the Warriors won that game 120-117. But man, it was a great game. A lot of back and forth. We saw the Mavs take a lead. We saw the Warriors take a lead, and then it came down. To the fourth quarter, we saw Steph Curry go on this run. But let me start with you. Obviously, I'm not a Warriors fan, right? I'm a Laker fan, but I'm a big Klay Thompson fan. Have been for his entire career. And
Klay to LA.
I wanted Klay in LA. It didn't happen. I wish his return to the Bay was in a Laker uniform, but nonetheless, he had a good game last night. But what did you think of his performance? Because for me, I was excited for it. I knew he was going to come out aggressive, right? We know Klay's one of the ultimate competitors that there is in the NBA. We've seen him take over games with his shooting before. He talks some trash here and there too, but most of the time he lets his game do the talking. And it was funny to see Steph guarding him in the beginning of the game. Literally less than 15 seconds in, he fouls him. A couple possessions later, Klay's trying to post him up, and Steph strips him clean, and it comes down, but he airballs the three, obviously. But he wanted that one to go in after getting them. Draymond hits the three on him, right? So there was a good energy to start the game before we saw them settle in. But what was your just your impressions from seeing Klay in a Mavericks uniform, in a non-Warriors uniform, and just of the game last night?
Yeah, I was gonna start with that. Like, seeing Klay, in a Dallas Mavericks uniform, I don't think I'll ever get used to that. I always picture him wearing that white number 11 jersey for the Golden State Warriors that he wore for 13 years. And I'm happy that Klay is happy, right? He's in a situation that he wanted to be in, which is being in a starting role, be a contributor on a potentially championship level team. And he had kind of lost his way the last couple of years with the Golden State Warriors. Unfortunately, there's always been rumblings about Steve Kerr wanted him to take a step back going into this season if the Warriors were to resign him. He turned down $2 for $50 million last offseason as part of an extension of his current contract,
Mhm.
which, in hindsight, I think he probably should have taken, but I don't think he was comfortable with his position and with what his role was with the organization moving forward.
He
I
also
think,
maybe thought he would have got like a longer contract.
yeah, for sure. If he tested free agency, maybe somebody will give him 4 year for 100, like, Draymond got from the Warriors, like Andrew Wiggins got from the Warriors.
Well, I
Um,
think that's what he wanted from the Warriors, right?
yeah,
He thought like, all right, let me finish the season out. Let me ball out, and then maybe they'll offer me a 3 or 4 year deal, like you said, kind of like that Draymond one. But obviously, it didn't work out like that.
no, for sure. And I think he felt a little bit slighted, obviously, last season because, he sees all these guys around him getting extensions and getting paid, but, the Warriors were kind of like in a holding pattern with him because, he himself wanted to prove to the world that he was still Klay Thompson from 2019. And,
Hmm.
it's unfortunate, the back-to-back injuries in 2020 and 2021 really hampered him, and
Hmm.
his ability to, be at that all-star level, which is what he worked so hard to get back to, when he came back in 22. So, um, but, long story short, I'm happy for Klay. He came out, first possession of the game, trying to post up stuff, got to the line, he scored the first 2 points of the game. So I was really happy for him. In the fourth quarter, he had like a little bit of a flurry of his own, hitting back-to-back threes. And in the group chat, I was going crazy. I was like, man, Clay's gonna end this game, for the Mavericks today, right? Like this is his revenge tour. But
They should have gone to him on that last possession.
they should have gone to him on that last possession. Even if he makes or misses, you got to give that ball to Klay Thompson, right? In his building, the one that he
Yeah,
built with Steph and Draymond, right? So
not just that, he was actually hitting, right? Like he had six
he
threes
was,
that night, and a
he was,
couple in that fourth quarter that helped them kind of build up that lead.
yep,
So it was a great game for sure. I think if it was up to Klay, he definitely would have wanted to finish out his career with the Warriors. There's no doubt about that. Klay is extremely an extremely loyal guy when it comes to basketball, and how much not only he means to that franchise, but that franchise means to him because of being drafted there and all that he's accomplished over there. It was one of my favorite moments was when he hit that second three, I think in the second quarter, and he hit the little shimmy, and they asked Steph about that, right? Because Steph was laughing when that happened, and Steph was like, "Yeah, he knows better than that to do that." It was obviously just for jokes, right? And those guys are brothers, but
of course.
hey, Steph got the last laugh, obviously, right?
He almost
Huge
always
game for him. 37 points, 6 boards, 9 assists. He scored the last 12 points of the game. And, we say Klay is one of the greatest shooters all time, and he is, but man, that guy on the other side is the greatest shooter of all time. And that was probably the first kind of real moment he's had like that this season where he just kind of erupted. It kind of gave vibes of the gold medal game in the summer where you just hear these see these onslaught of shots, and that wasn't like the 4 threes in a row, right? Like he hit in the Olympics, but
yeah,
a couple layups, mid-range shot, and obviously the three to ice it with the night. Um, Steph Curry at his age, I tweeted this last night, but I think the older he gets, he's still going to be able to play at this level, like we've seen LeBron do, and people are going to have to talk about him the way that we talk about LeBron and his longevity and the way he's playing at almost 40 years old. Because I think Steph's going to be able to do this until he's 40, 41, 42 if he wants to. It's all up to him, right? How long he wants to play, but his game is centered around his shooting ability and his conditioning. And as long as those two things are there, he can play for a while, don't you think?
for sure, 100%. The way that Steph has taken care of his body, since they lost in the 2019 finals, he got a lot stronger. He's so much more built from the upper body, compared to like 5 years ago. And it's kind of crazy. Like he peaked later in his career. If you really think about it, like we've seen probably the best version of Steph Curry, the complete game of Steph Curry these last 3 years, especially that 2022 championship when he basically carried the Warriors to the finals that year. He put him on his back. Obviously there was a lot of contributions that season, but he won that finals for them on his back. And, everyone gave him his flowers after that. But he ages like fine wine, man. I mean, him, LeBron, and KD, they're like ageless wonders. Their games translate so well to today's game that they can play till they're 42, 43 years old if they wanted to. The game isn't as physical as it once was back in the 90s, and that's why guys would break down, after like a 5 or 6 year career, 7 year career. So, basketball, is all about running, cutting. It's not necessarily always about about athleticism, who can get like the highlight reel dunk. Steph Curry transitioned the game into this new era like single-handedly, right? And that's why
Yeah, with his shooting.
and other players have copied that same thing, and they can add years to their career if they have a shot and they can cut and they can defend, right? So I think Steph can definitely go till he's 40, 41 years old for sure, but I think from a personal standpoint, he probably won't, because he wants to probably end his career on a high note, like just like how he is now. So, pride also comes into it. He has a huge family as well. He has 4 kids. So I don't know if he's going to spend much more time on the court, but I know it's hard to keep him away from basketball. That's for sure.
Yeah, but the thing about Steph, man, is, as long as he's on the team, they're going to be in contention to at least be a playoff team, if not a championship contender, if they put the right pieces around him, right? And that leads me to my question about this team. Are the Warriors a true championship contender? They're off to a 9-2 start. We saw them have some impressive wins last night against the Mavericks. Obviously, the biggest one of the season was against the Celtics, right? Obviously, I had a rough game against the Cavs after that, but it was, a couple days after the Boston game. They're on a long road trip, so I don't think many of us will knock them for that game. But, I don't think many of us expected them to get off to this hot start like they did. They signed a lot of good role players, right, in the offseason. When you think about Buddy Hield, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson, right, good complementary pieces. But this Warriors team is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. They're arguably the deepest team in the NBA. They don't have a clear number 2 guy, but they do have a lot of guys that just fit really well together around Steph, around Draymond. Kuminga's had some flashes here and there. We've had solid games. Moody's been a really good 2-way player so far. Buddy Hield, we know with him, his shooting, but do you think the Warriors with this roster, are they a true championship contender, or are they maybe just a tier below that right now?
I think they're a tier below right now. And this is me, as a hardcore Warriors fan that, will always think that they're going to win the championship every single year, obviously. But I think that they are in a great position right now because it's early in the season. I really do like the team and where they're heading, but what's going to happen the day that they start double teaming Steph? Who's going to be that second person? And we still haven't found that answer 11 games into the season. Is it Kuminga? Is it Wiggins? Is it Buddy Hield? Right? We really don't have a clear-cut answer on, who their actual number 2 is on offense when, games get tight. Yeah, last night Steph bailed them out because he's Steph Curry, right? Like he's, arguably top 5, top 7 player of all time when it's all done, most likely. So a guy like that, you give him the ball, he's most likely going to score more times than not. But what happens the nights that Steph isn't playing for some reason, or is in foul trouble, or has to be on the bench for any reason?
Or like you said, when they're playing a team that maybe starts throwing doubles at him, right, and actually knows how to defend him, like who's going to step up in those moments?
100%. We kind of saw it earlier in the season, and it was the game that he actually got hurt. The Clippers, they sent doubles and triples and traps, and the Warriors couldn't figure out what to do that game. They ended up losing that game. So, you run into a team that knows how to defend Steph Curry, which, half the league probably has a game plan for Steph Curry. Mavericks obviously last night didn't, but they need a true number 2 option, or even a true 1A option, if that guy is out there. And, we see this almost every single year at the NBA trade deadline. There is someone that's always available. It's just a matter about, is it going to be a fit for the Warriors? I know they have the assets for sure, right? They have the contracts to make it work. They have the draft picks. But, who is it going to be out there that's going to be available at the trade deadline? Is it going to make sense for the Dubs? I mean, it could be a situation where they just play this year out the way it is, and the offseason they could assess, because they do have a lot of trade pieces, but they definitely need a true 1A or 2 scorer next to Steph Curry to have a chance to win a championship.
Yeah, I agree. 100%. We've talked about this before, but to the point, like our uncle was saying here, they're gonna have to go out and trade for a second guy probably, because right now the regular season, right, is one thing, but when you get to the playoffs, obviously it's a lot different. And we know they have a lot of complementary guys that are capable of making shots, but you need a guy that can also go get his own bucket at times, right? And someone who can consistently give you even just 20 points a game would be great. And I think that's going to be the difference for the Dubs. They're for sure, if they keep it up at this rate, which I think they will, they're going to be a lock for the playoffs, definitely a top 6 seed, if not maybe a top 4, and they get a home court, right? But like you said, there's going to be guys that become available, whether it's a guy like like a Zach LaVine, like we've talked about, maybe Lauri Markkanen becomes back into the conversation, right? So it's going to be interesting to see. I do think the Warriors are going to ride it out like a little bit, and then they're going to see how they're doing when they're at the 30-point mark, 40-point mark in terms of games played, and then where they're at the All-Star break. But we know with one thing with this team, right? Especially when in a position like this, they will be aggressive if they feel like they're a piece away to do something. To Eamon's point, is Buddy not that guy? Buddy's a really good shooter. We know that, right? I don't think anyone can doubt that. He's been a great, replacement for the void of Klay, and he's even been a little bit better because he's actually a little bit more of a polished scorer than Klay Thompson is. We see him drive to the rack. Yep. He can get his own shot a little bit better than Klay can, but Buddy is not a certified number 2 guy. He's a role player. He's a guy that can help shoot you back into games, help extend leads. He gets hot, anytime, but he's very, very streaky. He could be 5 for 5 one game or 1 minute and then go 0 for 5 on his next 5, right? But you need a guy, like I said, you can just throw the ball to. If Steph's getting double, or if Steph's out of the game, or if Steph's not playing that game, there's a guy here. Whether it's Zach LaVine, Lauri Markkanen, maybe Brandon Ingram. We've talked about him before.
Jimmy Butler, maybe.
Jimmy Butler, maybe the Heat make him available if they're not in a good place. Yeah, Miami's off to a shaky start, like Breed said. Maybe Jimmy's that guy, right, that they go after, who'd be a solid 2-way guy. And they do have a lot of good contracts, like you said, that are expendable. Kuminga would probably be the first guy of any trade, centerpiece of any trade. Maybe Wiggins too, to make the salary work. So we'll see. I think all Warrior fans can agree that they're very, very happy with the start that this season. 9-2 record, some quality wins. Like I said, I wish I could say the same about my Lakers. We're not off to that great of a start. I think hovering around 500 right now, which is a whole nother conversation. But it's been good to see that the Warriors are playing well. And another team that's playing well right now in the Bay Area is the 49ers. So let's get into some 49ers talk now. We'll start with the biggest news of the week, which was Deommodore Lenoir signing a 5-year, $92 million contract. Random, right? We didn't see this coming. Hadn't been any rumors or news about this. But it was good to see this for multiple reasons. Lenoir is a guy who was drafted by the Niners in the 5th round. The first couple of years struggled a little bit to find his way. And last year really stepped up. Became a guy who could hold it down on his own. And then this year he's been tremendous, right? Pretty good shutdown corner. He's only allowed 35 receptions on 56 targets this year, 346 yards, hasn't allowed any touchdowns. So I like that they didn't let this get into the offseason next year, because he was set to become a free agent. And we know, these offseason signings with the Niners can be very, very tough and very long process. So it was good to see them get this done during the season, and they don't have to worry about it right in the off season.
100%, man. I think they finally learned, they can't let shit like this drag into the off season. A guy like Demo, who's arguably been, a top 5 player on our team this year, along with like Fred Warner and Nick Bosa, obviously Brock Purdy, Trent Williams, those guys, right? He's in that category. He's a Niner. Like, he is like the epitome of what a 49er is, right? And what this era and this brand of football has meant to the Niners. So I was super excited. It was so out of left field when I saw this report today. So huge shout out obviously to John Lynch to make this happen in a timely fashion, not let this drag into the offseason. Hopefully they can do this for some other guys as well. That means that they are planning for Brock's contract in the offseason. That's what this shows. The fan base is that they're committed to making this a long run, not something that is going to be a retool, a year or two down the line. So, really excited for what's to come for the next 5 years with Demo. And I just hope, he stays healthy. Obviously he's a young corner, 25 years old, but he plays the ball so well. I think the best play he's had this season is that interception off Dak Prescott, when Dak was trying to chuck it away to CeeDee Lamb, and he just goes up, one-hands it, and comes down. Like, that's winning plays right there, and that's the kind of guys that we need on this team.
Yeah, and it's been like that from the start of the season, right? We saw the first game against the Jets. Aaron Rodgers, tries to throw the ball. Demo comes in, deflects it, and it leads to an interception picked off by another Niners player. I don't remember who was the one that got it, but Demo had that deflection, but since the first week of the season, right, he's been really, really solid. Again, no touchdowns allowed, which is a very key thing. 42 solo tackles, a couple interceptions, 4 passes defended. So it's good to see a guy like that, and a lot of the Niners players were asked about Demo's contract. Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, Deebo Samuel, they all had to say that they're really happy for Demo because he's a guy that truly, truly works hard. He's putting in time, whether it's during the season, the off season, to watch film, to get stronger. So he's one of those guys that's really earned it and worked for it, and him being, again, not an early round draft pick for them. The 5th round is somewhere where the Niners have had a lot of success drafting guys. And so it's just good to see them locking this guy for sure, and he played his part in the Niners win on Sunday against the Bucs. It was a win nonetheless. It wasn't a great win or a good win. It was another typical 49ers survival win, 23-20. The good thing was it was great to see Christian McCaffrey back, and we'll talk about him. But let's talk about this first. Jake Moody, man,
bro,
his first game back off the IR, he went 2 for 5 on field goals. What's going on with him? Because obviously this isn't a one-time thing for Jake Moody. Unfortunately, we saw actually, this year he has been pretty good up until this game. I think he only had 1 missed field goal coming into this one, and then for some reason his leg was just drunk on Sunday, and he couldn't make some of these field goals. And it's not like these were 55, 60-yard kicks. These were, you're talking about inside the 50-yard line, right? And him just missing. And then, Debo, obviously there was the whole altercation with him getting into the face of Pepper. And, reports say that Debo got into the face of Moody. Supposedly he told him to lock in. That's probably the PG-rated version of what he said. He probably told him to stop fucking missing straight up like that. And Pepper got upset, but I mean, hey, it worked, right? Because he lit a fire in him, and thankfully Moody was able to make the game-winning field goal. But what do you think, man? I mean, what's going on with him? Is this just was it just an off day, or is this an ongoing thing?
I don't know, man. Look, he's a specialist, right? They drafted this guy pretty high in the draft. Mid-round for a kicker is pretty high in the NFL draft. Most kickers go undrafted, or they're free agents that are signed on to the practice squad during a team's offseason or something. So I don't know. He's coming back from the injury, right? But he's had a confidence problem ever since he's come into the NFL. We kind of saw it in the Super Bowl when he missed that extra point that ended up actually costing the Niners in the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah, it was blocked.
It was blocked, right? So those guys are supposed to be specialists, and they're not doing their job right now. The fucking special teams has literally been the bane of our existence the last 2 years. This team could have gone so far this season and last season if special teams didn't fuck them up. Yeah. So, Jake Moody, hopefully whatever Debo said to him gives him a lot more confidence, for the rest of the season. Hopefully he figures out some mechanics, during the week, this week, to not do the same shit next week, against the Seahawks, which is a big game for the Niners, considering it's a divisional matchup. So there's a lot of implications. They can't afford to lose games because of kicking, moving forward, and especially with special teams. So, Tabor Pepper and Jake Moody, figure it the fuck out. You guys said we got us. Let's see if you guys actually got yourselves right now, right? So,
bro, if you're the kicker, you literally have one fucking job, bro, and that's to make these kicks. You know what I mean? And yes, in certain times, all right, maybe a kick is 60 yards plus, or it's a windy day, right? Or whatever happens here and there. But anything that's 55 and under, I feel like nowadays is pretty automatic for most kickers. Especially when you see guys consistently knocking them down from 57, 58 yards. And this isn't a guy who was drafted in the 6th, 7th round. The Niners used, a 4th round pick to draft Jake Moody. So they obviously thought very highly of him coming out of college. And for him to have the moments, not only this year that he had in this last game, but the lapses last year, like you mentioned, right? Whether it was in the regular season, that extra point, maybe not kicking it high enough. It's what are you doing in practice all week, bro? Literally, the one thing you really need to do is just work on kicks. You don't even need to watch film or nothing, unless you're evaluating your own tape or something. But I don't get it. I think he's gonna get one more game, and if there's any signs of struggle, I think there's a chance that the Niners maybe consider benching him after the the next game, but I do expect him to be out there on Sunday starting. I don't think they're gonna. It's not a situation where they're just gonna bench him right now.
No,
But
no,
if it
for
happens again, once or two more times where he has games like this, then it's gonna be bad. But he made the game-winning kick. That was the most important thing. Hopefully, it doesn't come down to this again where we need that kick. But the Niners, like I said, they got the win nonetheless, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the most important thing is that he hit the most important kick, which is the last one. But bro, we don't even fucking get there if he makes the first 3 kicks, right?
Oh,
So
we win by 10 plus or whatever it is, right?
Like, you were saying all week, right, that this is supposed to be like a blowout type of situation, right? Like Tampa's coming off an emotional game against Kansas City. We're coming off a bye week, so a lot of things are supposed to go our way, and they didn't literally for 3.5 quarters. And we got so lucky that Brock Purdy was super clutch on that last drive, led them down. Juwan Jennings getting those extra yards actually ended up being the difference in the game, right? So I don't know, man. If Moody can come back from something like this, I hope he does, but it's going to be really, really tough. And like you said, like if he has another struggle this week where he misses, let's say, like 2 field goals and they're like gimmies, like within the 40-yard line or 45-yard line,
Yeah.
I would put him on IR and I would just sign Matthew Wright again, back to the team, because this shit is ridiculous, bro. Like special teams literally have cost this team a championship, and now they have cost this team 2 regular season games. It could have cost them a third. Had they lost on Sunday, that was probably the season. They were probably going to pull out. He was definitely going to get released on Sunday if they lost. That was for sure. There was no way Kyle Shanahan was going
to. Can you imagine if he missed that game-winning field goal?
Bro, he would have been fucking dead. Kyle Shanahan.
He would have then he would have been benched 100%. He would have been benched.
100%.
And you see the reaction. Like Shanahan was fucking pissed on the sideline, right? When he missed that, I think the second one or maybe the third one, whichever it was. It's like, of course you're trying to be there to support your players, and teammates are trying to be there to support one another. But at some point, everyone's going to get a little bit frustrated, right? I was listening to KMBR today, and they had Dante Whitner on, and they asked him about this. And Whitner was like, yeah, I would have been in the same position as Debo. Like at some point, shit's going to irritate you, right? And, everyone has to do their job right on the field. And it's like he's like, you miss 1, maybe 2, given certain conditions, like, all right. But, when it's 3 and it's just, you're just missing, flat out missing, and there's nothing you can really point at, then of course people are going to get pissed, right? At the end of the day, you got to do your job. And, I think, like I said, luckily for him, he made that last one and they escaped with a win. It's all these Niner games have been self-inflicting like wounds, right? All season long. It's a game they should have won by 10 points. Obviously they squeaked by, winning by 3. Let's talk about something positive here though. Christian McCaffrey, made his season debut, and it looked just like a typical CMC. 107 total yards on 19 touches. We saw him, getting his carries. We saw him getting his work in the pass game. The biggest play, obviously, that lob pass that Brock Purdy threw, and it just right in the breadbasket right there from McCaffrey. And, what was it like just seeing him back out there? And what were some things you noticed about just the impact of him being on the field?
Bro, he has like breakaway speed unlike any other running back in the NFL. I feel like maybe him and Saquon. Saquon obviously is super explosive as well, but dude, CMC through the tackles, he's a real deal. And is it me? But every time that he caught the ball or any time that he carried the ball, when he went down, were you kind of like worried, like, is he actually going to get back up? Because it kind of felt like that for me for like the first
I never was. I wasn't worried, honestly.
I don't know, man. I felt like that shit could pop at any second, but he came out of the game without any issues. So whatever he did in Germany must have worked, obviously, and hopefully it holds up for the rest of the season. But man, Christian McCaffrey, he's our closer, bro. He's the one that makes his team go on offense no matter what. He's the one that's going to help us fix those red zone issues for sure. So I think he got
that super serum in Germany. He came back the winter soldier.
Yeah, man, that guy is definitely the winter soldier for sure. But I was thoroughly pleased. I mean, they got in the red zone, I think, twice on Sunday, and they scored once in the red zone. So that's still an improvement, right? But this team still has a long way to go.
Everyone's saying in the comments, red zone. That's been the problem. And we thought CMC was going to help. And look, it was a first game back, but
yeah, for sure.
1 for 3,
Yeah, and that play to Kittle, that was actually designed for CMC to go underneath. But Kyle Shanahan said after that the play wasn't there. And, Brock Purdy bought enough time. Kittle read Brock Purdy's eyes, went to the corner in the end zone, and Brock, he threw a dime into the back of the end zone, like he always does. So, but really excited to have CMC back. I really didn't think he would come back this season. We talked about it, I think like week 2 or week 3, that, it's a possibility that he misses the entire regular season, but there's no way that this team could go on, without Christian McCaffrey the way that they've been performing.
Yeah, you saw like the difference of him being out there, like you said, just his breakaway speed. We saw him shoot up some of those gaps. One time he almost broke away for a touchdown, and I think as the season goes on, start to see those things kind of open back up, right? And sure. He'll get there. But him being on the field, he draws so much attention, whether it's in the pass game or he's getting the ball out of the backfield, and it's gonna just help guys around him, right? You're gonna see guys like Kittle get more open, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, right? All these guys are going to get a little bit more space because of everything that Christian McCaffrey draws from the defensive side. To Gary's point, yeah, Kittle's been such a great weapon for them in the red zone this year. I think he now has 8 or 9 touchdowns on the season. You can tell he's clearly Brock Purdy's go-to target in the red zone, and makes sense, right? Kittle's 6'3", great hands. Rarely do you see him drop a ball at all, let alone in the end zone, right? So that's kind of become his safety valve, but they're definitely going to have to make their improvements in the red zone. Hopefully that they can capitalize this week against a weak Seattle team, which we'll get into, but it was definitely good to have McCaffrey back out there. And another feel-good story for us, man. Ricky Pearsall scoring his first career touchdown on Sunday. We saw Purdy hit him over the middle, and once the ball got into Ricky's hands, the rest was him, right? You saw the speed breakaway. He hit the little stutter step on the DB back there and was able to zip by him and get across the pylon. But man, Ricky just 3 months ago got shot in San Francisco, makes his season debut about a month ago, and now here we are, scores his first touchdown. What was it like for you to just see him, after everything he's been through, get that first score?
Yeah, we saw flashes of this in the Dallas game, on Sunday night a couple of weeks ago about his breakaway speed, especially on that jet sweep that he ran, towards the end of that game. And, I texted you on Sunday when he scored. I was like, man, this guy's fucking fast. Like, he is super athletic. The way he moves inside and outside of his cuts is so smooth. Like, his breakaway speed is pretty insane too for a guy his size and with his ability. So I was really happy to see him score. Obviously, it's been such a tough season for him, the way it started out with, him getting shot and all that kind of stuff. So I'm super happy for Ricky. The sky is the limit for what he can do and what he can contribute, not just this season, but moving forward for the 49ers. And I feel like in due time, he's probably going to become Brock Purdy's number 1 target, because the way that he just gets out of his shifts so smooth and so clean. Once him and Brock get on the same page as the season goes on, which they will, watch out the rest of the NFL, because this guy is the real deal for sure. And, we kind of questioned ourselves when the Niners took him last summer, in the first round of the draft, like, who is this guy, right? But when you put on the tape and when you watch this guy actually play, bro, he's really good. So I'm super excited to see like what the future holds, obviously, for this season. And, I really do feel like he's going to become Brock's favorite target. Obviously, Jawan Jennings is probably Brock's favorite target this season, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky Pearsall like kind of overtakes that.
Yeah, Indo said Pearsall got shot and returned before Jared Vanderbilt. How about we got a Ricky Pearsall touchdown before GTA 6? How about that?
Yeah, exactly. But
for real, man. When the Niners drafted Ricky, right, there was like a lot of surprise and shock. Obviously, a lot of us, I think, thought that the Niners were going to go with a corner at that pick, or maybe they go D-line or O-line to just get some security there, but they take a wide receiver. And I knew a little bit about the guy because I saw that play he made at Florida with the one-handed catch, which is, the catch of the year last year in college football. But I didn't know that Ricky was this athletic, that he was this strong, this fast, had that high of a vertical leap and create the separation that he did. And he could have easily had a second touchdown on that game. Brock missed him one time on a go route where he just took off on the right sideline. Mm-hmm. And there was a play, I think in the first quarter also, where he ran a little out route to the corner and he was clapping for the ball, and Brock just didn't see him. So, like you said, it'll get better hopefully as the season goes on, right? Brock learns that, like, hey, Ricky's getting open on pretty much every single route that he runs, and we'll see him probably get more and more targets and more receptions, right, as the season goes on. And it's good that the Niners drafted him, because obviously it was we saw what happened to Brandon Ayuk going down, and even with Ayuk being out for this season, I'm very confident with this group that we have. Deebo Samuel, Jawan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall is still a fantastic wide receiver trio. All three guys bring something different to the table. Deebo being that physical yak guy, Jawan Jennings now playing the X, and he's been, we third in Jawan, but now he's become just an every down type of guy for them. And, we mentioned it earlier, and Mumpy did in the comments too. If Jawan Jennings doesn't get those extra yards on that last play,
they lose.
Maybe they don't get that field goal off, right? Or maybe it's a little bit too far and Moody fucking misses again. Who knows? So Jennings has been great this year. We'll see Ricky get more involved, in the offense. And, let's talk about Brock now, because, beginning of this game, we were like, man, what the hell is going on with Brock? We saw him missing on some throws. There was a throw over the middle to Jennings that was just too high. The one he had to Kittle had to make a bobbling catch, and that was all him, right? Because that throw was a little bit high for Kittle too. And I mentioned the missing Ricky Pearsall on the out route, missing him on the deep throw. I remember one where Juszczyk was open, just straight up the seam, and he didn't catch him there too. So Purdy missed, I feel like, some open guys, and yet finished the game 25 of 36 for 353 yards and a couple touchdowns, and near 120 rating. He had in the fourth quarter, I think, 140 yards alone.
Yep.
And he led that game-winning drive, obviously, toward the end, which was good to see, because we've been on the wrong side of that many times this season. But with 41 seconds left, he was able to move the ball down and get the team in a position to win the game. So what do you make of Brock right now, coming off of this game? Because he's had some really good games. He's had some bad moments too. And, we thought, like I said, he was off to a shaky start in this one, but then he turns things around and makes some really big plays, especially down there in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was nice to see him get his first game-winning drive of the season. I think that was first and foremost. That was the biggest takeaway that I had in that fourth quarter. He made all the right throws when it mattered the most, and that's what it comes down to in the National Football League: is can you show up when it gets the tightest? And I was really impressed with how seamlessly they actually got down the field. And it was all Jennings and Pearsall. It was to his wide receivers. There was no checkdowns, right, to CMC. It was no middle routes to Kittle. It was all out routes, right, to the sideline. And, the receivers did a great job, catching those balls, but Brock put them in places where the receivers can only go and get them. And they did the rest of the work with the yards after the catch and whatnot. But, he definitely had an up and down game in the first half for sure. We were talking about it, in the first half, like, it seems like he's been getting off to slow starts these last two games. The Dallas game was kind of the same situation as well. And then, start of the third quarter against Dallas, he just lit it up. Here, the second half of the game, he kind of turned a corner when he hit that hit Kittle in the back of the end zone for a touchdown. I feel like he was really on his game, after that point. And like I said, if Jake Moody doesn't miss some of thit's field goals that Brock puts his team in position to hit, we're talking about this game in a completely different light right now. So, but it's good for Brock's confidence for sure moving forward. Not that he's not a confident guy; he's a super confident guy, and he believes in himself.
Yeah.
Even after the game when they interviewed him, he was like, I missed a lot of throws this game, but I'm just happy that the guys around me, made me better today. So it's a huge testament about the type of guy that he is. But super talented quarterback. I'm not too worried about the slow start, especially if it ends up in a win. We just need to see the results, and this is the first time that they've had a winning streak all season. Surprisingly, this is the first time that they won 2 games in a row. So hopefully this is something that they can actually build on. I think it is something that they will build on, because they have to build on it. To have a chance to make the playoffs, they have to win this division. So it was great to see that, and I hope that we can obviously see that more this season if the situation calls for it. Not every game is going to be a blowout. Not every game you're going to be up 2 touchdowns. And if there's one thing that we've sorely needed, it's a guy that can carry us in the fourth quarter of a really important game and win that game for us. So I hope that this is a right step in that direction.
Yeah, it's a very good point you make. You know, if there's anything we can take away from or a positive we could put on Jake Moody missing those field goals, it's that it kept the game close, and we saw that it led to this drive with 41 seconds left. Because honestly, when Tampa Bay tied the game, I was thinking like, all right, we're going to overtime. 41 seconds, we're not going to do anything here, and we moved the ball 50, 60 yards within those 41 seconds and put ourselves in position right to get that game-winning field goal. And for Purdy, like you said, definitely should be a boost of confidence, right? Because when you think about the great quarterbacks in the league, it's what can they do in a 2-minute drill? Well, Purdy just did that in less than 45 seconds, right? Going down and getting your team in position to win a game. And it wasn't just that last drive. Something that was very impressive about Purdy this game. Check this out. He completed 86% of his passes against the blitz for 200 yards. I hope that this is something that him and Shanahan have kind of figured out now a little bit, is when teams are blitzing, here's what we're going to run. Where are you going? Who's your go-to guy? And they have a way to beat that, because, when it comes down to these, not only the second half of the schedule, but hopefully if the Niners make it to the playoffs, right, there's going to be teams that love to throw a blitz at them. They're going to try to make Purdy beat them with his arm, not, McCaffrey handoffs and whatnot. So hopefully they can take a lot away from the film in this game and see what worked for them and apply that moving forward, because 86% is really good. That's like elite type of stuff, and if Purdy can consistently do that, moving the ball, completing passes, picking up first downs on third down blitzes. I think that one he completed McCaffrey was a third down, right? The one where he threw the lob.
The lob
was a quick. Yeah, he's fading back, and Shanahan said that when he threw that ball, he thought let it go too early, but Purdy did a good job of putting air under it, because he knew McCaffrey wasn't going to be able to get to it right away if he just threw like a regular pass, right? So Purdy's a smart guy. We just obviously like to see him settle in right when a game starts, but as long as he closes out the game, like you said, and comes out with the win, that's the most important thing. And hey, no turnovers in this game, right? No fumble. We did have the fumble, but Jennings recovered it, thankfully. But no interceptions, and I think the team will continue to get better as he does. And question here from Bree: How worried are you guys about Detroit? We've been talking about Detroit like the last couple of weeks. They're definitely the team to beat in the NFC right now. I think it's fair to say, given how they've played, given how the Niners have played, right? We're not at the level we're used to seeing the Niners at just yet. We can definitely get there as the season goes, and we'll see when it comes to, what is it, week 17 or 18 when we play the Lions, right? It's going to be a crucial game, for seeding purposes. So, yeah, I think right now the Detroit's the better team, but I know if the Niners get back to the brand of 49ers football that we're used to seeing, then we can beat Detroit, whether it's in the regular season or in the playoffs.
Yeah, Detroit is the scariest team in the NFC right now, obviously, because of all the weapons they have. Obviously, Ben Johnson, probably the best coordinator in the NFL right now, drawing up these crazy plays for all of his different players and all of his different playmakers. So, but, their quarterback isn't that great. He threw 5 picks and they still won, but try doing that against some other team. That's probably not going to happen. So I'm not really worried about Jared Goff as a quarterback for the Detroit Lions. What I am worried about the Lions is us not playing up to standard like how they did in the first half of the NFC Championship game last season. That's the only thing that I would be worried about, is the Niners not being ready for an opponent like Detroit. I think the Eagles at this point scare me a little bit more than the Lions do, and that's because of the quarterback that they have. So
Eagles are legit, man. I was telling you a couple of weeks ago. I know we smacked them last year in the regular season, but this team is different with Saquon.
Yeah, he brings a different dynamic, right? They had DeAndre Swift last year, but Saquon Barkley, he's arguably a top 3 running back in the NFL. It's him, Henry, and CMC. So,
yeah,
I am obviously worried about Detroit in the sense that they're such a complete team. They have a chip on their shoulder, right? They know what they're setting out their goals to be. Ben Johnson came back because he wanted to help this team get to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. So they look like the strongest team in the NFC right now, obviously because of record and, because of their play and their ability to put up a lot of points and all the adversity that they have faced also in some of these close games themselves. So they've been able to pull out a lot of these games. You know, they've been able to blow out teams. It reminds me a lot of the Niners from last season. So it's going to be interesting, you know, how to see like how the season finishes out. But Detroit is definitely a team. If I'm the Niners, I would definitely be worried about.
Yeah, honestly, for me, the biggest thing I'm worried about is the Niners. There's no team in the NFC that like strikes fear into my heart. I think the Niners just have to get back to their level of play. Like I said, they're their biggest roadblock this season, right? If they can clean up the special teams mistakes, the missed field goals, the red zone offense, right? Those things. If we can pick up the pass rush, right, get after the quarterback more, these are all fixable things that they can control. And if they can do those things over the course of the next 7 to 8 weeks, they will win the division. They'll probably get a top 2 to 3 seed. And once you get into the playoffs, nobody wants to see the Niners, whether you're playing, especially not if you're playing at Levi's, but even if the Niners have to go on the road to play somewhere for that NFC Championship game or the divisional game, right? No one wants to see this Niners team because there's no team in the NFL that has a bigger chip on their shoulder than the 49ers, given everything that this team has been through the last 4 or 5 years. So the Lions don't scare me. The Eagles don't scare me. The Vikings don't scare me. Packers don't scare me. As long as the Niners stay healthy and get it together, that's the thing that scares me the most. Can they get it together and can they stay healthy? You know, and we'll see what they can do this week, right? Playing the Seahawks, a divisional game. The Niners beat them once already. Seahawks come in at 4-5. Niners are 5-4. Like you mentioned, their first winning streak of the season, right? Multiple games. So I think DK Metcalf is expected to be back this week. He missed the last 2 weeks. Of course, he's going to play against the Niners, right? Yeah, it was a full participant in practice today. I think the Niners are pretty much mostly healthy, no major injuries. Hopefully we get Mooney Ward back at some point soon. We know he loves playing against DK. So, you know, what do you think are the keys to a 49ers win against a Seahawks team that's kind of struggling right now?
There's a couple of different keys. I think one is what they did wonderfully the last time that they played the Seahawks, which is get pressure on Geno Smith. Geno Smith has regressed as a quarterback the last couple of years, ever since he had his resurgence.
Are you writing him off?
I'm writing him off. I'm writing him off, and he better not write back. So he has regressed quite a bit the last couple of seasons. He passes for a lot of yards, but it's just empty. It's just empty calories.
Empty yards, yeah.
And it doesn't really matter in terms of winning or losing, like what he does at this point, because I feel like the Seahawks have a lot of holes on their defense as well. Surprisingly, their coach is a defensive-minded guy, and these last 8 games they've been terrible on defense. So I'm interested to see like how the Niners respond to, you know, obviously the Seahawks. I think they're coming off a bye week as well.
The Niners, no team plays more teams coming off a bye than the Niners this season.
Yeah, which is super insane to me. Like they have like the least amount of rest against all these teams, and they still manage to pull out wins. But you know, you're gonna see a resurgent Seattle team, right? They are still in the hunt, you know, for the division, surprisingly. So it's not gonna be an easy task for sure. But the biggest key, obviously, get pressure on Geno Smith. The second thing is don't turn the ball over. When the Niners don't turn it over, they don't lose. As soon as they have 1 or 2 turnovers, it becomes a really dicey game. And, you know, we have to.
You know what's crazy about that? You mentioned that. Sorry to cut you off. I saw a stat that the last game the Niners had that 1 turnover, right? It was on the muff punt, and the Bucs didn't have any turnovers in that game. That was the first time the Niners won a game in which they had more turnovers since 2021, I think.
Sheesh.
Yeah.
Man, that's actually kind of insane. So that means anytime we turn the ball over, we're most likely losing that game.
When we turn the ball over more than the other team, we usually lose that game. So that was the first time. It was only, I mean, it was a 1-0 difference, right, in terms of turnovers, but it was a big turnover, right? Because the Bucs scored a touchdown right after that fumble on the punt. But yeah, I agree with what you said. You know, the Seahawks definitely have a lot of holes in that defense. Not that good against the run, not too good against the pass either. We know with Geno, right? He'll move the ball, and then in the red zone, he's been really bad this year, giving the ball away. He's had multiple interceptions when he gets into the red zone. Happened a couple weeks ago in one of their games. It happened against the Niners when he played them the first time. So again, this is the game the Niners should win. Not just win, but they should win by 10 plus. I mean, this is a home game. It's Christian McCaffrey's first game back at Levi's this season, so that place will definitely be rocking, be loud. Again, the Niners are pretty much mostly healthy, obviously waiting for a few guys to come back still, like Dre Greenlaw, who they're not opening his practice window just yet, so might have to wait another week or two for him. Feliciano, obviously. And I also want to give a shout out to some of the rookies that the Niners have had playing this year that have just been fantastic, starting with Dominic Hooney, who's been, I think he was the highest graded 49er last week from Pro Football Focus in their win over the Bucs. We saw Renardo Green step up again last week in the absence of Mooney. He's been fantastic. Malik Mustafa has obviously been really good this season too. So this rookie Niner class has been great. Yeah, Gary said best rookie class of the Shanahan era. Yeah, I think there's a very strong case for that when you look at all the contributions they've gone from guys this season. So a 5-4 record for the Niners right now, given everything that's happened, is not bad. And they control their own destiny right from here on out. If they can, take care of the ball, just lock in like we're used to seeing them do over the last few years, then this team can definitely get back to winning the division, get back to the playoffs, and hopefully go on another run. But obviously, still got a ways to go to get there.
Yeah, for sure. It starts with your division, just like Kyle Shanahan always says. If you can win your divisional games, you're most likely going to win your division. So far this season, they're 1-2 in the division, and they have a chance to go 500, this Sunday by beating the Seahawks. If they can sweep the Seahawks, I really like our chances of winning the division because I feel like, the Rams are going to regress as the season goes on. And by the time we play them, they'll probably be already out of it. So we might have a chance to just beat up on them. The one team I am worried about is Arizona, though. They've gone on a huge streak ever since, they beat the Niners, I think it was week 3 or week 4. So
yeah, I don't know how to feel about Arizona, man. I feel like they're what, 6-3 right now, I think. 6-4. Yeah, obviously coming off a big win against the Jets, last week. But I wouldn't say like I'm afraid of them because we should have beat them the first time. We didn't, obviously. It was a game the Niners let slip from right out of their hands, right? But I think they're gonna have some they do have a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way. I think they had one of the top 5 hardest schedules for their first 8 games, but they have one of the top 5 easiest schedules the rest of the way. So the fact that they're 6-4 up until this point with the easier half of the schedule coming up is definitely, interesting. But again, Niners just got to handle their business, and they should be able to come away with the division. If they win these next 3 games in the division, what would that put them at? 5-2? 4-2. Yeah.
4-2. That'll be the best division record.
Yeah, assuming that, you're going to need Arizona to lose some of these games too, right? Coming up. But I'm not worried about the Rams, and though I think even though they've had some success against the Niners, I mean, that was their first the time they beat us in was it week 3 or week 4 also? That was the first time they beat us in the regular season in like almost a couple of years, right? The Niners have had a lot of success against them, and by the time we play them next, Christian McCaffrey is going to be on the field. Hopefully Dre Greenlaw is going to be on the field. Hufanga will be on the field. So it'll be a different team that the 49ers bring to the table. So, we'll see. First things first, Niners got to handle business on Sunday against the Seahawks, get a little 3-game win streak going before our schedule gets really, really tough with games coming up against Buffalo and Green Bay after that in back-to-back weeks, right? So let's see if the Niners can come out on Sunday, get right. Thank you guys all for watching. As always, please subscribe to the Deep Dive on YouTube. Follow myself and Aman on Instagram as well. And, we'll be back next week. Yeah, shout out to Klay Thompson. His first game back, he was really good. But, yeah, we'll be back next week, hopefully talking about another Niners win. And we'll definitely have a lot to talk about. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next week.
See you guys.